Since the beginning of time, SEOs have debated what the most important ranking factor for Google is. For the last 10 years or so, I've always said that backlinks are the most important ranking factor. And no, it wasn't because I owned a link building agency, which I've since sold. I truly believe that backlinks were the strongest ranking factor for the past 10 years. I made a bunch of videos on the topic and I feel like I had some really good evidence to back it up. But I feel like everything has really changed in these past couple of years. First, Google started releasing these things they called helpful content updates, which have since been rolled into the broad core algorithm updates. And these really seemed like Google's way of trying to fight against all the new AI content that was going out on the internet. Then there were the Google algorithm leaks where we learned a lot more about the internals of how their algorithm works, which showed some stuff that surprised a bunch of people. And then in Google's recent DOJ case, they were forced to give even more information about how their algorithm works. The TLDR is that they were really just trying to determine if content was helpful or not. And of course, they're looking at a bunch of data coming from their web browser, Google Chrome. So now there's a new ranking factor that I think is at least up there with content and backlinks. I don't know if it's the #1 ranking factor, but I think it's something we cannot ignore and has grown so much more important in significance over the last couple of years, and that is user experience. So in this video, I'm going to go over the basics of user experience. I'm going to talk about exactly how I see it working today in Google search results, and it's a little bit tricky because I see it working in a couple different ways that can either benefit you or harm you. And then we'll talk about some tips so that you can get a better user experience so that you can hopefully get a boost in SEO and don't see any of the downsides. All right, let's get into it. I'm Chris Regis. You can click the link in the description to learn more about me or if you'd like to work together. And be sure to sign up to my mailing list to get instant access to my shared SEO documents folder. One of the things in the folder being the UX checklist, which we'll be talking about a little bit later in the video. So just a very quick overview of user experience. It just means, do users like what they see on your page? If they search for something like link building agency and they go and they click your result at the top, do they only look around for a couple seconds and then click the back button, go and choose a different link building service and then spend more time on this website instead? And then when they're on this website, do they do things like purchasing something or just staying on the website longer? Ultimately, what Google wants to do is to make sure that you don't have to go back, keep looking around at different websites to find what you want. This article by Mary Haynes really laid it out exactly what Google's looking at. Just some very quick takeaways. How people interact with your page. Click-through rate, scrolling engagement teaches Google what's good. Google stores click and interaction data in systems like NavBoost and Glue, which aggregates long-term behavior. This is important, long-term behavior. We'll come back to this in just a minute. These systems learn which pages consistently satisfy users. Because if you think about it, an algorithm does not know what people like. Their algorithm might say, hey, this is the best page based on them covering all of the topics. They have all the right keywords in the right places. But if all the people are saying, no, actually, we prefer this one instead, then who's right? Is Google right or are the people right? Because Google wants to give people what they want, then they need to take this into consideration because at the end of the day, they got to give people what they want. I saw a video from Jackie Cho where he talked about how his new software with a DR of 26 was actually outranking a lot of competitors with much higher DRs that had been in the game longer than they have. And he attributes a lot of this to traffic and good user experience. And in this new video I just made a couple days ago about how people are destroying their rankings with bot traffic, the main idea is that you're sending all this traffic to your website, which Google then bumps you up in the rankings for because they like to see websites that are getting traffic from places that are not Google. But then they judge you as having a bad user experience. So then your rankings come crashing right back down because you got all the traffic, but it was only going to stay on your site a couple seconds. It wasn't completing goals. So then you lose rankings and can actually destroy your entire website. And while we're over here, guys, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and give the video a like and give the channel a sub. It helps me out a ton. Now I can hear people already screaming, well, what about content? If you're not using your keywords correctly, if you're not doing your on-page SEO correctly, if you are not matching search intent, then you're not going to rank and user experience doesn't matter. And I 100% agree with you. You have to get all these basics right. But the thing about these basics is that all of this stuff is actually really easy to do. This is kind of like the easiest part of SEO. And why it's so easy is because Google gives you the answer of what they're looking for. You can literally type in any keyword and Google will give you the best pages that they think have the best content for those keywords, right? So all you have to do is look at some of these pages, see how they're doing things, and then you can replicate it and create something pretty similar or better quite easily. So we just assume that everyone's going to be able to do this because it's the bare minimum. But then what about backlinks? Aren't backlinks still important? Yes, I think backlinks are still insanely important. See DR 66 here. Of course, Reddit's a little bit lower with a higher DR 95. DR71. So actually the number one, DR66, is losing to a DR71. Got another DR71 down here, a DR72 down here, DR92. So why is this DR66 beating out these ones with higher authority? They're all kind of in the same ballpark, and this could be Ahrefs' problem with, not measuring exactly correct. And I still do think backlinks are insanely important for SEO and such a good way to increase your rankings. Like if you're trying to get on page one for this term and you don't have at least a DR60, I would say it's going to be very, very, very hard to get on this page. The lowest one on this page is a DR65. So if you weren't anywhere in the ballpark, even if you had a really good user experience, you'd really be fighting an uphill battle in a lot of cases. But once you have your content and then once you have some backlinks going to your website, I really see user experience kind of playing out in two ways. One of the ways is you could be a lower authority competitor and you could get onto page one with your content and your backlinks, and then you could get boosted higher onto page one once Google is able to gather more data. They can either boost you or demote you. And then like in Jackie's case over here, I don't think they were on page one at all. I think they were getting a bunch of traffic from their website from YouTube and social media. So I think the traffic boosted them on the page one. And then once he got onto page one, the users are having a good experience. They're actually completing goals. They are purchasing. They're not bouncing. Then you get even more of a boost. So it can get you onto page one, and then it can get you even higher on page one. And then the thing I'm seeing happen a lot now as well is, let's say you've got a website. You've met the bare minimum with your content. You've got decent on-page SEO. Maybe you have some topical authority as well. And so you start building links to the website and you do good. You go up somewhere high up on page one. Then Google really checks your site out much more in depth. Like we saw in Marie's article, this is long-term user behavior they're measuring. So a lot of times it doesn't happen quick. So once you're at the top, they gather a lot more data on you. And then they say, hey, you've got some issues with your user experience. So now we are going to demote you. So the way I kind of like to visualize it now is that you've got your content and then you've got your links, labeled as C and L, and then you have your user experience up here. So it's like you still need these two. These two get you on the page one or somewhere close at least. But then it's like once you use these two to boost up to page one, UX becomes like the judge. They can say, even though you've got good content and you've got good links, everyone hates your website. So guess what? You're going back down. Maybe you don't lose all your rankings, but maybe you go to the bottom of page one or maybe even off of page one if it's really bad. So is it the number one ranking factor? I don't really know about that. It's really hard to say. It feels a lot more complicated than that. I don't think you can really say anything as the number one ranking factor. Like if you don't have your content right, then you're just not going to rank. If you have like zero authority, you might not rank very well. And this stuff can really help you with at least getting on to page one, especially if you're not doing stuff like Twitter or YouTube or social media. If you're not driving traffic from somewhere else, and I feel like you really need the links to actually get into the picture. But if you're driving traffic from somewhere else, you might not need links as much because you can get boosted on the page one with that traffic, and then the UX could keep you there. But you might need to continuously drive traffic to remain there. So I feel like links are still crazy important. You can really just brute force your way onto page one. But then again, once you're there, UX becomes the judge. All right, so UX is important. I've really prioritized user experience at the very top as far as when I'm taking on new clients and what I'm deciding to do first, especially if they have some big glaring issues. The last thing you want is for a client to gain rankings and then to come right back down. All right, so what should you do about this? Number one, of course, focus on content and links. You still got to do this stuff and you probably always will. I'm putting this as number two, but it really shouldn't be number two. It should really be part of number one. User experience should be part of your content creation process. It should be something that you consider with every piece of new content you make on your website, every page you create on your website. You should always apply these UX principles to make sure you don't get slapped by Google. Remember to click the link in the description to sign up for my email list and you get instant access to my SEO documents, including this user experience checklist. This is actually quite a big checklist, but I'll try to just go over some of the more important ones. Having clear navigation and good internal linking, of course, is very good because people actually need to go to your website and be able to navigate around. This is all page speed and core web vitals stuff. You need to have a quick website because if it's too slow, then people aren't going to like using it. So go to Page Speed Insights, let it run the test and make sure that you're not horrible. Then we have some stuff here dealing with mobile design. A long time ago, Google switched to mobile first indexing, so this stuff is super important. Now we're getting into a little bit more interesting stuff. Of course, have good heading tag hierarchy. Make sure that your font size is readable. Make sure that you use white space. Make sure there's good spacing around your different headings. Make sure that your lines of text don't go all the way to the edges of the page. Make sure you're using margins so it's easier to read. Avoid walls of text. Include a table of contents if your article is super long. Make sure you have call to actions with whatever you're trying to get them to do, and you've done it in a legitimate and clear way. Make sure you don't have anything that's going over what they're trying to look at, whether that's chats or forms or pop-ups or whatever. Now, here's probably the most important thing right here. Give people the answer as quickly as possible. Don't make them scroll around your page looking for something. If they come to a page looking for how much something costs, give them the cost right away. And really, you can apply this to every paragraph in an article. Just give them the most important information first, then explain it. Provide key takeaway sections at the beginning. Be concise and stick to the subject. Take out all the chat GPT crap that rambles on and doesn't add anything. And there's a bunch of other stuff here. One I didn't mention before was modern web design, but this is a really important one as well. If your website looks like crap compared to all of your competitors, guess what? You're automatically less trustworthy. But at the end of the day, your website just needs to look trustworthy, give people answers as fast as possible, give good information, match search intent, look modern. And if you think you've been hit by Google's algorithm and that you've lost rankings because you have a bad user experience, here's some things you can do. First, improve your user experience using the checklist like I just showed you. Then drive traffic from elsewhere, whether that's from pay-per-click, social media, video, etc. So Google can get more information about new people coming to your website and having a good experience. Because if you've gotten knocked off of page one completely, then they're really not gonna be able to gather this data. But if you're able to pump in traffic from somewhere else, then they can recalculate. Just remember that this will take time. Like Maria said in her article earlier, this stuff is long-term signal, so it can take some time to really recalculate stuff. It could even be the case that this might only be recalculated during core updates. I'm not really 100% on this. You just got to make improvements and keep moving forward and let Google take its time to rejudge. So is user experience the new top dog of the SEO world? I don't really know if it's the #1 ranking factor, but I would at least put it up there, right up with content and backlinks. I've had some clients come to me that didn't take this stuff too seriously, and now they are paying the price because Google slapped them down. So it's always better to take care of this stuff before it becomes a problem. You don't want to lose your rankings. I promise you it's much better, it's much easier to stay up here than to get knocked down here and then try to regain Google's trust. All right, guys, that's it for now. Link in the description if you want to work together. Sign up to the mailing list to get instant access to my user experience checklist and a bunch of other stuff. Like the video and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. It helps me out a ton. And also leave a comment down below. What do you think about user experience? Is that as big of a deal as I think it is? Or do you still think content or backlinks are king? Go ahead and let me know. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.